All right, well, we're at hitting 560 plus. You know what? I'm going to begin and others will join. So let me say good morning and welcome to what is now the 14th Town Hall, hosted by our Minister of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries, the Honorable Lisa MacLeod. My name is Tim Hudak. I am currently the CEO for Ontario Real Estate Association, proudly representing Ontario's 80,000 realtors, recovering politician, and had the honor of serving in a similar capacity back in the early 2000s, when I think Minister MacLeod was just in high school. Folks, thank you so much for joining us here today. I know many of you had joined the minister. This is her 14th of these town halls. Only there's been another minister who's been more out there working with the women and men, the business owners, workers out there in these sectors like Minister MacLeod has. We've got a very exciting day today, so I'll keep my opening remarks brief. Remember the early town halls with the minister reaching out to you to say that she had your back and to get ideas from you on how to help cope with COVID-19 and plan for a better future. She then took those ideas to cabinet and through the economic statement to budget initiatives that brought forward significant sums to help the industry during a time of need, and also some exciting initiatives coming up in 2021. I know we're still landing on a name, but the notion of the Ontario staycation, the chance to travel around and celebrate our province once the public health guidelines permit us to do so, to invest in businesses like yours. And on my daughters, Miller, Maitland, and Debbie and I just can't wait to get back to our destinations and see you. Minister MacLeod has done an extraordinary job of fighting for you, being in your corner, and getting results. Today, we're going to talk a bit more about the future. Minister MacLeod will be walking through her vision to get your input with a white paper of how we can move forward with heritage, sport, tourism, and culture industries. And we have a special guest star with us today, our Deputy Minister, Nancy Matthews. So I'll turn over to Deputy Minister Matthews to get us started, and thank you for joining us.
That's great. And thanks very much, Tim. And it is great to see so many familiar faces. And I'm just so pleased to be able to join you this morning. You know, this year, I think it would be an understatement to say, has been unusual and challenging on so many fronts. And, you know, the word pivot has been very well used. As the ministry under Minister MacLeod's leadership, and as each and every one of you, all our sector partners really have had to redefine, adapt, reimagine, and innovate in ways that we never would have imagined. You know, new partnerships and collaborations have developed, tables have been convened, relationships have been formed and strengthened, and new delivery platforms and ways of doing business have emerged. Today's launch of the white paper marks a new pivot point for the ministry, as we set our sights in developing a 5-year plan for our ministry focused on recovery and renewal. I'd really like to thank the minister. I'd like to thank the ministry team and the minister's office team for Minister for your leadership. And to the ministry team and the MO team for all of your work. And I'd really like to thank all of our many sector partners and colleagues with whom we've had the privilege of working. This white paper has a very strong foundation. It's been built on the vision, the engagement, the ideas, and the collective contributions from all of our sectors and from all of you. So I'm really looking forward to your feedback and ideas and continuing to really strengthen the partnership that we've developed as we work forward towards renewal and recovery. So thank you so much. I'm just so pleased to be here today and so proud of this white paper that we will be introducing to you. Thanks.
You can find them in every neighborhood. The new go-tos and timeless standards. The innovators the one-of-a-kind creators, and the shop owners who greet you by name and treat you with kindness. They give us a sense of belonging, and they always remind us we need local as much as local needs us. Closer to the heart.
Well, I love that. I love that yours to rediscover as well. Minister, I just want to say I commend your leadership, how you have shown incredible drive, passion for the folks in this sector. You've been successful at the cabinet table. I got to say, I think all of us admire the fact that this past summer you spent summer and fall 12 weeks on the road, showing confidence in the sector, championing the women and men, the entrepreneurs who celebrate Ontario's beauty, incredible talent, and heritage, and all we have to offer. And I know that you plan on leading the way when we can in getting us all back on our feet and celebrating this incredible province. So thank you for your fantastic leadership, your drive, and your success in delivering for folks. And I got to say, your amazing contributions in listening and bringing those ideas forward, including this now 14th Town Hall, first one on video, which is great to see as well. So Minister, I'm going to turn it to you for some opening remarks and then to talk about the white paper. Minister MacLeod.
Thank you so much, Tim. I am so grateful that you have been by my side throughout this entire process. We've been longtime friends for, I guess, 15 years now, and you really have helped guide my political career, and certainly through this pandemic, being able to rely on you as a former minister who was through a crisis quite similar to this. I've been very honored to be able to call on you as a friend. I also want to say thank you to my Deputy Minister, Nancy Matthew. There is no light between our two offices. We have worked collaboratively since the minute I have been appointed to this ministry, and she opened my eyes to how spectacular the programs that we run are, and how we really are in every single community across Ontario. I often like to say we're responsible for the crown jewels. We store them over at the Royal Ontario Museum. We are responsible for the most prestigious award in Ontario, which is our Order of Ontario. And we do all kinds of great things with some of the biggest brands in the world, like the Toronto Raptors and Pearson International Airport, with some of the smallest organizations in the province, whether that's a Boys and Girls Club or a local soccer team. We really do everything. And I hope in this white paper, you actually see that demonstrated about how critical each of your little slice of this world is to the quality of life in Ontario and our economic well-being. So I want to say thank you, Nancy, to you and our entire staff at the ministry, both in my personal office as well as in the bureaucracy. Friends, the world is now in the midst of a generational crisis, and Ontario is not immune, as we've seen recently in the news. COVID-19 is a novel threat, one easily transmitted and not impeded by our body's natural defenses. In addition to being easily spread, the impact of the virus can seem unequal. It can seem unfair. For some, the virus's symptoms are relatively mild. For others, the symptoms are severe enough to require hospitalization. And tragically, for more than 3,800 people in our province, the virus has proven to be fatal. COVID-19 is more than a disease. It's also the agent of a global economic calamity that has tightened our borders, shuttered our businesses, and driven millions of people out of work. And as with the disease itself, the economic hardships is unfairly distributed. Certain sectors and businesses are much more vulnerable to the risk of collapse than others. Nowhere is this risk more evident than in the heritage, sport, tourism, and culture industries, overseen by the ministry. And for these sectors and for the people who work in them, COVID-19 has emerged as a truly existential threat. When the COVID-19 outbreak began, Ontario's heritage, sport, tourism, and culture industries were among the first and hardest hit. We will take the longest to recover. We are high-touch sectors that depend on gatherings of people, live musicians and theater companies, arts and cultural festivals, all dependent on audiences and the participation of large crowds. Sport teams and organizations need spectators and require close contact between competitors. Tourism operators require visitors from beyond our borders. Airlines and boat tour operators need to fill the majority of their seats, bringing passengers in close proximity for prolonged periods of time. and customers of hotels, meeting and event venues, or restaurants and heritage sites need to feel confident that they can gather safely in a common location. All of these sectors were built on a mutual understanding that our society works best when we can come together and share experiences in a way that enriches our economy, our society, and the lives of every one of us. They are uniquely impacted by the spread of a disease that requires social distancing if we are able to defeat it. Beyond illness and economic hardship, this pandemic has robbed all of us of the ability to share experiences and make memories with one another and between our diverse communities. It's a true triple threat, a public health, economic, and social crisis rolled into one. Ontario's Action Plan Protect, Support, and Recover sets out $45 billion in support over 3 years to continue protecting people's health and to support individuals, families, and job creators, all impacted by the virus, while building the groundwork for long-term economic recovery. Strategic and targeted investments in tourism, music, arts, film and television, book and magazine publishing, museums and galleries, and sports and recreation activities will continue to protect and support our sectors as they rebuild, transform, and invest in opportunities in their local communities, leading to a full long-term economic recovery. Supporting opportunities in local communities will lead to an economic and social recovery for all Ontario, ensuring we safely emerge post-pandemic as a global leader and global destination of choice. Under the premiership of Doug Ford, our government has remained focused on 3 priorities throughout the pandemic. First, we must do whatever it takes to save lives and protect the health and well-being and safety of Ontarians throughout this crisis. This has required us to make difficult and painful decisions, ones that have resulted in temporary restrictions on economic activity in many of the sectors that fall under my ministry. We did not make these decisions lightly. We acted when we were convinced that a failure to do so would put lives at risk. We also, secondly, continue to do everything we can to support the businesses, communities, and jobs that have been hit the hardest. We have done this by taking steps to ensure businesses and organizations have the support that they need to survive and adapt to a new way of life and a new way of doing business during the pandemic. At every step of the way, the Premier and I have remained steadfast in our commitment to using the full resources of the Government of Ontario to help sustain the jobs, businesses, and community organizations that have been impacted by the measures taken. I'm particularly grateful to the consistent advice and counsel of those who live and work in my sectors that the ministry oversees. In the earliest days of the pandemic, we moved quickly to create 14 ministerial advisory committees representing a wide scope of sectors to plot a shared response to the economic challenges of this pandemic. I want to thank the members of these ministerial advisory committees for their leadership and their selfless service to our province. I also want to thank the tens of thousands of people from across Ontario who participated in our previous 13 telephone town hall updates I've hosted since the pandemic began. Finally, the white paper will inform a 5-year plan with the view of ensuring that medium and long-term recovery of our sectors can occur. Any plan to rescue and support these sectors must consider our new social reality, and not only our recovery from the immediate crisis. For those who depend on our heritage, sport, tourism, and culture industries for their livelihoods, the long-term economic damage from the COVID-19 pandemic will extend far beyond any short-term measures we take to combat it. This is because the virus is already changing our individual behaviors in significant ways, long-lasting ways. We've become anxious about congregating in small crowds and less confident about engaging in experiences outside of our immediate local comfort zone. Some of these anxieties are well-founded and based on solid public health guidance. Others are rooted in more generalized fears. No matter how substantiated, these behavioral changes are very real and could endure. affecting our personal and social habits until a vaccine has been widely distributed, and perhaps even longer. We must plan for long-term renewal driven by the industry and supported by the government, designed to restore confidence in these sectors and in the businesses, organizations, and people who work in them. It's my hope that this document will provide and help prompt the kind of conversations needed, both inside and outside of government, to get this long-term renewal strategy underway. The economic recovery and renewal in the industries my ministry oversees will only occur through collaboration and innovation. So I just want to say to the owners of every restaurant who quickly pivoted to delivery service, to every musician who moved their concerts online, to every museum and tourism operator who found ways to provide more digital experiences, thank you. We're all grateful to the festivals and community events that harness new digital and networking tools to keep people connected, to our filmmakers and content creators who found ways to keep us entertained during the long weeks we were largely stranded at home, and everyone who used their talents and experiences to keep us connected, uplifted, optimistic, and proud, no matter how dark the news of the day was. You all stepped up. Thank you. The true strength of Ontario lies in our people, our resiliency, our creativity, our generosity, and our community spirit. Together, they are all stronger than any virus. This was true before the pandemic, and it's true today, and it will be true long after COVID-19 is relegated to the history books. My job, the job of the hardworking public servants that Nancy leads in our ministry, and the job of our entire government is to do everything we can to help these remarkable people not only survive, but succeed no matter what the challenges and changes that stand in our way. Before the start of this pandemic, I like to refer to a spectacular double bottom line that our heritage sport, tourism, and culture industries provided the province. There's both a financial bottom line through which the people who work in these sectors generate hundreds of thousands of jobs and billions of dollars in economic activity. They allow all of us to experience Ontario as the world in one province. I'm determined to keep it this way. I view this white paper as more than a plan to support and strengthen a set of sectors. This is a plan to support and strengthen our entire province as a place to live, to work, to visit, to explore, as a place all of us can be proud of to call home. So no matter where you live in this province, this is the Ontario we all want to see. It is an Ontario that remains as strong as the people who work in the sectors that remain vibrant despite the current hardships. No matter what challenges are ahead, I remain confident that our future is very bright for these sectors and for the province. I'll now turn it over to our deputy to walk through the first set of our slides pertaining to the white paper. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Matthews.
Thank you so much. And so we begin. I'm going to start a little bit, if you could flip to the next slide, just by focusing and quickly summarizing some of the things that I hope are familiar to you. What we do, Minister MacLeod just spoke to many of these things. We touch every aspect of this province, every community, in terms of improving the quality of life, supporting the economic growth, by supporting you, the tourism, culture, businesses, festivals, events, and really championing participation in sport and recreation activities. In 2020, We've supported 250 festivals, 176 heritage organizations, 375 public libraries, 166 community museums, the provincial sport organizations across this great province, supporting our many agencies and attractions, Niagara Parks Commission, St. Lawrence Parks Commission, the ROM, Fort William, and also working in partnership with our agencies, OAC, OTF, Ontario Creates and Destination Ontario. We touch every aspect of this province, and we enrich our communities and our people in the province. Next slide, please. Where we were, the minister has spoken often of this, the double bottom line, the spectacular double bottom line for the province. Before the onset of the pandemic, the contribution of $75 billion in economic activity, larger than the GDP of Manitoba, larger than the economic impact of Ontario, Ontario's mining, forestry, and agriculture sectors, larger in fact than the GDP of many small countries, as well as our social bottom line, quality of life, diversity, sense of community, and pride of place. Next slide, please. Where we are, the minister has also spoken to this and the triple threat of COVID-19. We all know, and I know all of you on the call today are more than aware of the devastating impacts on all of our sectors. This really is a public health crisis, an economic crisis, and a social crisis. And re-emerging from this, as the minister has said, is going to really mean that we need to look at this in a different way. This will not be going back to the past. This will be working forward in the future and really tackling those. Oh, sorry. Next. Where we are going. So as I mentioned in my remarks, and as the minister mentioned in her remarks, what we have learned over the last several months is the people of Ontario are nothing if not resilient. That pivot that both the minister and I spoke to has been incredibly evident in terms of how individuals, workers, businesses, community organizations have mobilized, have adapted, have persevered, and have survived. There are many, many examples of this from across this great province. And we have been working tirelessly with you in terms of that. This is what gives us confidence in terms of the resiliency and recovery, and also has brought us through this white paper in terms of sort of the richness of ideas and the richness of strategy in terms of setting a path forward. Next slide, please. And over to the minister.
Thank you very much, Deputy. I appreciate that. So as you can see, the Deputy and I are absolutely proud of this ministry. We're proud of the people that we work with in every one of our sectors. And I think it's really important as the pride of people, pride of place I often talk about, you get to see it together. One of the things I wanted to do when I assumed the ministry was to ensure that all sectors felt that they were stronger together. So film and television, for example, being part of our tourism strategy being part of our community building programs. All of these things I think are interconnected, and they certainly are at the local level. And so our path to action today includes 15 direct actions, which we are starting to work on in the ministry or have begun working on. So I'll go to the next slide. Our first will be the redevelopment of Ontario Place as a world-class year-round destination. Based on the Premier's commitment to redeveloping Ontario Place, it will be central to the recovery of heritage culture, recreation, and tourism for all Ontarians in a post-pandemic environment. A redeveloped Ontario Place is going to encourage investment while ensuring that this unique site on Toronto's waterfront will once again become the crown jewel of the province. We will transform Ontario Place into a world-class year-round destination that will attract local, provincial, and international visitors. Included will be key heritage and recreational features such as the Cinesphere, the Pods, Trillium Park, and the William G. Davis Trail. This is something that's very exciting, and the Premier and I, after the new year, will be able to make some significant announcements. But it is worth noting that our first priority turns 50 years old in 2021, and certainly I do hope for a great recovery as we mark that 50th anniversary. We'll go to the next slide, please. Building back stronger in our communities. Our recovery will be focused on community building. The government will reinforce the work of Ontario Trillium Foundation's annual $103 million budget with an additional $100 million investment over the next 2 years. That's $25 million for 2021 and $75 million in 2022. This will best support not-for-profits who deliver important results in our neighborhoods. Think of the Boys and Girls Club, your local food cupboard, the Alzheimer's Society, many of the different organizations that you rely on to carry on the important work in your community. Now, the Community Building Fund will support community tourism, culture, sport, and recreation organizations that are experiencing significant financial pressures due to the pandemic. The fund will be administered by our Ontario Trillium Foundation with 2 streams. First, the supports for local community tourism, heritage, and culture not-for-profits, such as community museums, local theaters, fairs, and cultural institutions to help sustain their operations in the short term and create new attractions, experiences, and events. We'll also have a funding stream for municipalities, our Indigenous communities, charitable and not-for-profit sport and recreation organizations to make investments in infrastructure, rehabilitation, and renovation in order to operate sport and recreational facilities and meet public health protocols and local community needs. The work on this policy and this programming is ongoing, and we look forward in the new year to announcing these 2 streams to be available in addition, as I said, to the existing $103 million budget. Next slide, please. Recognizing the contributions of Ontario. Now, many of you may not know, and some of you may, that we do the honors and awards system for the entire province of Ontario. And it's incredible to see the remarkable people across our province who make our place of where we live worth living. And we want to make sure that we streamline, modernize, and expand how we recognize volunteer contributions. Each year, the ministry recognizes thousands of individuals who selflessly contributed their time and expertise to the advancement of their fellow Ontarians. Think about the Volunteer Service Awards that we annually give to 6,600 deserving Ontarians, or the prestigious Order of Ontario, which is given annually by her honor, the Lieutenant Governor. Now, given the current and likely future challenges with respect to social gatherings, we're going to be streamlining, modernizing, expanding how we recognize volunteer contributions across Ontario through our Volunteer Service Awards. Next slide, please. We also want to broaden Ontario's volunteer base. We're going to work on a whole of government approach to mobilize Canada's largest volunteer base. As you know, the Premier, since the beginning of this pandemic, has been talking about the Ontario spirit that he's seen. I often would comment to him, who thought that some of the unsung heroes in our pandemic would have been the sewing circle in our local communities who started making masks before they were mandatory. I think that speaks to how incredible our province is. And so, as announced in the 2020 Ontario budget, the government intends to develop a new organization to oversee Provincial Emergency Volunteer Unit. The organization will develop and oversee a pool of volunteers who pre-register to help during an emergency. It will be tasked with recruiting volunteers from diverse backgrounds, including age, geography, and skill set. This organization will primarily focus on large-scale emergencies, such as natural disasters or healthcare crisis, but will also be tasked with investigating how it can better support broader volunteer sectors and sustain the culture of volunteerism demonstrated by the Ontario spirit that we've seen this year. And I think when we talk a little bit later on in different slides about some of the major sporting events that we're coming up with, we're going to have to make sure that we have a great big volunteer base for that as well. Next slide, please. So let's go into sport. We want to promote safety and excellence in sport. We will strengthen the relationship between the ministry and our provincial sport organization partners. Our overall goal will be to help the sports sector recover post-pandemic, to instill confidence in parents that it is safe to play, to inspire children and youth to be active, and to best equip our high-performance athletes for competitions around the world. The mental and physical well-being of our athletes will be top of mind, and we will build on the successful Rowan's Law approach for concussions as part of achieving this goal. This is exciting, and we're looking at building greater bridges across all of sport to make sure that we are both taking children onto the playground so that they can enjoy sport, but also ensuring that they can get to the podium as many of our world-class athletes do. Next slide, please. We also would like to restore confidence and strengthen inclusivity in sport, culture, volunteerism, and tourism. Through this pandemic, we started to work with organizations that we may never have before, and I'm thinking specifically with our major league sports teams and our professional sports. And I believe that it's important for us to start leveraging our relationships with our professional sports organizations and our key arts and cultural institutions to rebuild confidence in sport and culture after a prolonged pandemic. We will also rely on our tourism operators and TIO to implement the best practices, ensure training for staff to deliver and safe and quality experiences. We know many of our sectors are already leading the way globally in making sure that we have a safe return to business, and we want to enhance that by working more collaboratively through the ministry. I believe this will be an exciting opportunity for all of us. So if you are a big business or you are a leader in creativity, I'm calling on all of you to give back to moms and dads who may be concerned about putting their children back into some of these high-touch, high volume activities. And I think this will be a very exciting opportunity for all of us. The next slide, please. As many of you know, I'm very competitive. I believe that Ontario's road to economic recovery will be when we can once again compete for global events, festivals, sports events, and conferences. So we want to establish the province as a destination of choice for marquee amateur sports events. So Ontario will be positioned to host prominent festivals, events, and conferences, including international sport competitions, such as 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup, while enhancing programming in our communities. We will rebuild our capacity for sport hosting to increase the number of opportunities and scale of events that Ontario attracts. This will require centralizing and increasing our funding streams for programs like Celebrate Ontario and Ontario Sport Hosting. This strengthened and redesigned festival, event, and sport hosting program will respond to evolving industry requirements. It's important to note, pre-COVID-19, $1 that we would invest from Celebrate Ontario resulted in almost $21 of visitor spending. Post-COVID, our festivals, celebrations, and sport hosting events will be key to our economic and social recovery, and therefore will receive strategic investment and thoughtful consideration. This really excites me. The next slide. They're getting ahead of me there, Nancy. We want to strengthen Ontario's commitment to the creative industries. We will invest in Canadian content, increase our film-friendly locations, and support the development of crews and talent. The ministry will continue to work with its Film and Television Advisory Council to maintain the stability of the province's 5 cultural media tax credits: Ontario Book Publishing, Ontario Film and Television, Ontario Production Services, Ontario Computer Animation and Special Effects, Ontario Interactive Digital Media. These tax credits play an integral role in increasing economic activity and job creation in Ontario, while also enhancing the province's cultural profile. During COVID-19, Ontario is ensuring cultural media tax credits and other program supports remain stable, while working to streamline the time it takes to process them. We'll continue to work with our film and television, as well as all of those other sectors, to position them as global leaders when it is safe to do so. Next slide. We want to create regional equity in film and television production as well. We want to expand this to underrepresented jurisdictions. We have heard loud and clear from Eastern and Southwestern Ontario that they are underrepresented in film production. The ministry will work with the sector to develop a strategy to identify film-friendly locations, build incentives for production, and develop talent. We want to create enhanced opportunities for regional production to support a greater diversity of stories and creative talent and help film and television industry jobs and investment in these regions. It would also facilitate the creation of a new Ontario-made content that can be exported for audiences to enjoy worldwide, further building up Ontario companies and accruing economic and cultural benefits for the province. As we have demonstrated time and time again in Ontario, our content is wanted the world over, and we should be doing much more of it. So we're looking forward to creating regional equity. The next slide. Skills development and redevelopment in creative, tourism, and hospitality sectors. We will work across government to help reskill those whose tourism jobs have changed or shuttered, as well as those in the creative and cultural industries who require skilled trades above and below the line. The ministry will continue to engage the Ministry of Labour Training and Skills Development, as well as the Ministry of Colleges and Universities, to support their investments in reskilling those whose jobs have changed or shuttered, while also creating training opportunities for growth in our creative industries. The government's additional investment of $180.5 million in employment services and training, including apprenticeships, micro-credentialing, and second career programs, will benefit businesses and workers in tourism, hospitality, and culture industries, including in film and television, interactive digital media, and music industries as they adapt to changes in their sectors, ensuring the workforce has the skills needed for success. I want to assure everyone that this work has been ongoing. I have recently met with the Minister of Labour Training and Skills Development, and I know my Deputy Minister has continued to work on her end, and we will have some exciting news as well on some of the other labour fronts that will assist our hospitality sector and our events sector. So on to the next slide. Let's capitalize on emerging creative industry markets. You know, there have been many dark points during this pandemic, but we have seen some bright lights with our interactive and digital media, our animation content, and those creators who were able to support us through home. And in interactive and digital media and video gaming, the ministry is going to continue to pursue opportunities to work with the ministry's other partners, particularly in tourism and culture industries, to reemerge from the pandemic. The interactive digital media and video game sector can be engaged to help stakeholders and sectors served by the ministry to expand and enhance their capacity to provide state-of-the-art online experiences to audiences and customers. I'll give you a couple of examples. Virtual reality tours of Ontario attractions and communities featuring immersive experience provide online tourists with memorable experiences linked to revenue opportunities such as merchandise and gift card sales, something that we're achieving, I think, with Ontario.live, but we would love to see a lot more of that. We'd also like to see assistance for Ontario's film, television, music, and publishing companies to create virtual marketplaces and VR-driven performances that profile their products to global buyers and fans. And I think I might just take the opportunity to thank organizations like the Canadian Opera Company and the Toronto Symphony Orchestra who found ways to provide us with digital content over the pandemic. And we certainly do appreciate that creativity. The ministry will also maximize opportunities from the development of an iGaming strategy in Ontario to support this emerging market. And that's work that we will take on with the Ministry of Finance. The next slide, please. Want to protect Ontario's core cultural institutions. We do support Ontario's arts institutions, and this year we are committing an additional $25 million to the Ontario Arts Council for one-time emergency support to Ontario arts organizations to help them cover operating losses incurred as a result of COVID-19 and prepare for a time when they can fully reopen their facilities, resume full programming, and welcome back visitors and audiences. A further investment for the ministry's attractions and agencies will be made to support Ontario's iconic institutions, such as the Royal Ontario Museum, the Niagara and St. Lawrence Parks Commission, Ontario Science Centre, and Science North. And Nancy, I'm not sure I'm supposed to say this, but I've got an exciting announcement for the Shaw Centre in Ottawa tomorrow I'm looking forward to. Next slide, please. We also want to reconnect Ontarians. Perhaps the centerpiece of this year's budget was the 2021 Ontario Year of the Staycation. Now, it's not safe to travel today. It may not be safe to travel in January, but when it is safe to do so, we will encourage hyper-local tourism to reconnect Ontarians with their communities. Through Ontario's action plan, Protect, Support, and Recover, we are committing to provide Ontario residents with support of up to 20% for eligible Ontario tourism expenses to encourage them to safely discover or rediscover Ontario in 2021. That'll be the year of the Ontario Staycation. We're setting aside $150 million for this initiative. We are consulting already with stakeholders about the details, and I'm pleased, I know Beth Potter from the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario is on the line. We've already started discussions on how we can pre-position this tax credit, working with the industry with suites of opportunities that Ontarians might be able to take on. So providing a travel incentive will help encourage Ontarians to choose travel within Ontario and to explore their own backyard. This will be an important part of supporting business sustainability and keeping Ontario competitive within the industry globally. More than anything, however, it will restore confidence. in our travel and tourism sector with moms and dads and seniors across the province. Next slide, please. In keeping with that, we would like to develop, and we will develop, a year-round, globally competitive suite of products. We will develop a year-round plan to welcome visitors to Ontario. As we've seen through this pandemic, there really isn't a shoulder season anymore. Ontarians are taking to nature. They're taking to outdoor recreational activities, and we want to enhance that. So to kickstart that tourism in Ontario, Destination Ontario, in partnership with our 13 RTOs and other tourism organizations, will develop a plan to attract tourists to the province through our gateway cities, the City of Ottawa and the City of Toronto, where our two major international airports are, and to Ontario's unique rural and remote tourism offerings. They will also be tasked with developing operators to build a competitive and ambitious 365-day year-round suite of products to ensure tourism opportunities in every season. And I'd like to just give a moment to say thank you to all of those who've pivoted their operations. I'm thinking of Mark Saunders from Saunders Farm in the City of Ottawa. Mark traditionally opens up during the summer for parks and picnics. During the Halloween season, he has a Fright Fest. But this year, given his large and vast outdoor farm, he was able to pivot and offer a Christmas themed event. And I think it's products like that where we have been able to pivot and bring in some ingenuity and innovation have been critical. And so to remain globally competitive, we will create tourism trails to profile Indigenous, LGBTQ+, and Francophone tourism, enhance craft and culinary experiences, develop film and television and music and playhouse and festival and event experiences. We invite all partners in all sectors of the ministry to participate in this exciting opportunity. And our final slide. We're opening Ontario back up for business and for visitors. We will bring back business travel and conventions to Ontario. We will work with the ministry's agencies, including the Metro Toronto Convention Centre and Ottawa Shaw Centre, to bring business travel and conventions back to our national and provincial capitals in a post-COVID-19 environment. We will continue to stabilize their operations with an eye to compete for global events and conventions when it's safe to do so. Destination Ontario operates 11 Ontario Travel Information Centres, 9 year-round and 2 seasonal across the province. We will modernize those OTICs to amplify our pride of people, pride of place, and pride of local products. So ladies and gentlemen, this is our action plan, but I'm calling you to action. No matter how long the pandemic lasts, the decisions we make today will pave the way for our economy and our society to look at when we return back to a new normal. The steps we take now will help safeguard our double bottom line, protecting businesses and jobs while also ensuring Ontario remains one of the most dynamic and diverse places to live. So the question for all of us remains, what does your Ontario look like? As Minister of Ontario's Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries, here's my answer. My Ontario has film and television production, the ballet, and all performance arts. My Ontario has film and television production, the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, and the Canadian Opera Company. My Ontario has OHL hockey, figure skating, ringette, skiing, and canoeing. My Ontario has libraries, museums, and art galleries. My Ontario has festivals, affairs, culinary tours, and bike routes. In 5 years, my Ontario will still embrace the sectors in my ministry, and the people of Ontario will stand behind those who work in these sectors and the businesses that depend on them. My Ontario will champion all the qualities that make our communities not only livable, but worth celebrating. The things that make Ontario a magnet for immigrants from around the globe. Now is the right time for everyone. Again, from both inside and outside of government, who agree that this is an Ontario worth saving, to come together for an end-to-end plan to help these sectors survive this pandemic and emerge stronger and with more confidence. I'm inviting all of you to share with us what you want your Ontario to look like. Tell us how you wish to see yourself, your business, and your community reflected in these proposals. I'm seeking your input. I want to see what you think of these proposals to reemerge as a global leader. I want to know about your own. Together, we can ensure Ontario remains the world in one province, a place whose quality of life is second to none and would rival any others around the globe. My ministry will engage in long-term planning, defining short, medium, and long-term renewal strategies as we work to help these sectors compete on a global scale once again. We will build this plan out over the next 18 months, 3 years, and 5 years, measuring the success of all of these initiatives and others that may evolve through these discussions. We have big challenges in front of us. I've never sugarcoated that. But I hope that this white paper, the initiatives it puts forward, and the ideas that you're going to bring to us will help build a conversation about arriving at some equally big solutions. I invite you to be part of that conversation because together we can rebuild the Ontario we all want to see. With that, Tim, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Minister and Deputy Minister Matthews, for that. I mean, what can we say? That is a bold, ambitious, comprehensive, and fundamentally optimistic 15-point plan for Ontario's recovery. And fantastic that the almost 700 folks that were on the Zoom meeting today and others will have a chance to give their views on that to inform the minister in the time ahead. No doubt we're in the stage now of recover and protect. There's some very exciting stuff coming down the pipe under your leadership, Minister, particularly the hyper-local tourism when we can get back around. I know Miller and Deb and Maitland and I are looking forward to getting back to museums and out in the trails and seeing a show and celebrating our province. I know when you did, I'll ask you a quick question too. When you did your tour across this province this summer and fall, what ideas do you recollect that now are in this paper that you may have heard from some of the folks that are with us here today?
You know what I thought was really incredible was, so first of all, to our restaurants, everybody that went digital with the QR codes and working with the folks in the internet. I love that. And now that a lot of them are doing contact tracing, I thought that was good business. I've seen a number of restaurants also utilize the takeout and delivery of alcohol, and they've prepackaged things. And I thought, they've really done a good job. So I think the hospitality sector has done just incredible work. It's our outdoor activities. I mean, biking, golfing, skiing this winter is going to all see a significant uptake. So how do we encourage that, not just as a one-off because it happened during the pandemic, but to create an incredible tourism product for the international visitor in 2 or 3 or 5 years from now that wants to come back? How do we continue to build that infrastructure? I thought it was incredible to go to rural communities who actually ended up with a lot of over-tourism. They were oversubscribed. And just yesterday, one of my colleagues from one of those rural communities in the Prince Edward County area was talking about how successful that was because the natural beauty was there. I look at, for example, Ottawa and Toronto. Both have faced lockdowns. Toronto is still in lockdown, finding different ways to keep residents moving. And again, Scott Beck, who is the president and CEO of Destination Toronto, often will say hyperlocal tourism right now is not going from Ottawa to Toronto. Hyperlocal tourism right now is going around the corner and supporting that local, authentic retail operation like Mrs. McGarkle's in Sweet Mustard in Merrickville, or the local restaurant that you support. So I saw that. I want to give a lot of credit to the Pearson International Airport and Ottawa Airport. Clean, safe, physically distanced where possible. Our airlines have all stepped up. I've been on those. I think that we're offering a safer product today than we ever have. We just can't lose that. So let's look at where we've been able to pivot and find success and grow that success. And that's where these ministry investments will come.
Outstanding, Minister. And whether it's yourself or Deputy, we saw the email for folks to participate. If they want to get a copy of the slide deck or see it, where could they find it?
Well, they can always email minister.macleod@ontario.ca, or they can go to ontario.ca. This will be loaded under the ministry's site. And certainly most of you have my cell phone because I saw a lot of you texting me while we were on here. So I'll get back to you after that. But I do hope you enjoyed the slideshow. our presentation, and I do hope you thoroughly read end to end. It's been a labor of love, Tim. We started this early on in the summer based on the wonderful submissions we saw from SCFIA. It builds off of my Empire Club speech on October 30th and sort of the work that we did when we rebranded the ministry in October of 2019. A lot of this comes from the minister advisory committees and in conversations that we've had and things that we've seen through the 11-week tour that we had throughout the pandemic and early parts of the summer.
Yeah, well, ambitious, comprehensive, shows you've been listening and thinking a lot. And what I love, it is fundamentally optimistic about a bright future for folks in heritage sport, tourism and culture industries here in our province. Deputy Minister Matthews, Minister MacLeod, thank you very much. For all those here today, thank you for your leadership and your advice and help inform this plan. Follow up with the minister, as she said, help to make it an even greater vision for our province in the future. And I did see, I know the parliamentary assistants, Vincent McKee, Billy Pang, Sharif Sabway were here. And MPPs McDonnell, Anand, McKenna, Andrews, Key, said him already, he gets 2, Booma, Coe, Miller, Wayne Gates. He had quite a crowd. He had quorum here.
Well, that's good. And a great array from different parts of the province too.
Absolutely, and all parties as well. So folks, thank you very much for your attention here today. Again, Minister, thank you for your leadership, and Deputy as well. Hope folks are enjoying Hanukkah. All the best for a very Merry Christmas. We are now done for now. We look forward to seeing you again in the new year for a much better year.
And then let's end with this. Happy 2021, everyone.
Folks, thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.